Most men think the hardest part of separation is losing their wife. It's not. The hardest part is watching her suddenly seem completely fine while you're falling apart. And the meaning you're attaching to seeing that is probably incorrect. So in today's video, I'm going to explain why your wife can suddenly seem like a completely different person, what may actually be happening underneath the surface, and why understanding this can ultimately change how you move forward to get that reconnection you want with her. Something I want to separate when it comes to seeing her moving forward is I think that the pain hits you inside from a different angle than you expected. What makes sense is that you probably thought that her taking space, checking out emotionally, or even a full-on separation would look like she was hurting as well. It would look like she was hurting emotionally, but you probably see her looking almost relieved or with like a new pep in her step. It almost makes you feel like if the marriage actually mattered to her, she would seem a lot more devastated, especially because you are feeling that internally yourself. But she's been wrestling with a difficult decision internally for a long time, months or even years. Think about spending 2 years working at a job and you're thinking about leaving it. Every day you go to work frustrated, the same things keep happening. Nobody in leadership does anything to make the place better, even though so many times they've been given a bunch of suggestions. So every day you wonder, should I quit? Should I really take that step? But because of human nature for most of us, it makes it very hard to quit that job. I know when I was making the career change to coaching and kind of fulfilling what I believe my purpose is, it was very hard leaving the corporate world that I was in for over 15 years that I climbed the ladder to a pretty comfortable place. But one day you finally hand in your resignation, and to everybody else from the outside, you're going to look energized and you're going to look optimistic and you're going to look pretty excited. Not because the job meant nothing, not because you weren't stressed or that the years didn't matter, but because the decision itself removed a huge amount of internal conflict. That is very in line with what you may be witnessing from your wife, but it doesn't mean the end of all her pain. It really just means that it's a conclusion of this long internal debate she was having. It's important to see the difference between the two. And the big question that a lot of men ask is like, where was this version of her before? Why couldn't she be this positive and upbeat and energized for me? You may even notice her suddenly doing things she never seemed interested in, trying new hobbies, meeting new people. And I'm not necessarily talking about taking interest in other men, although that can enter the scenario as well. But she might be changing her appearance and taking care of herself differently. When with you, it was just kind of par for the course, the same old look and same old routines. And maybe to you, it feels like much less effort was being put in. It's very tempting to make yourself believe that this version of her appeared overnight, almost as like a slap in the face to you. What's often happening is that parts of her that have been dormant for years are now suddenly starting to get attention. I don't know if you have one yourself or you have friends that kind of have a lake house, but in the Northeast or Midwest, we really have to deal with all 4 weather seasons. So generally you have to close up the lake house for the winter and do all of the needful things like closing the windows and just making sure everything is sealed off for the winter. That lake house is going to be very dark and cold during the winter, but springtime comes and the sunlight starts coming in. You kind of open those windows up, you uncover all the furniture, and it's a total freshness to the place. The place looks completely different between the 2 seasons, but none of the rooms are new. Like they were already in there, they just hadn't been opened up for a very long time. A lot of women experience something very similar during a major transition. They start reconnecting with parts of themselves that feel they've neglected for a long time. And if you think that isn't true, I promise you that when women check out, they start looking for themselves again. I had one woman on one of my videos the other day. I believe it was 5 signs she's emotionally checked out, that video. She literally commented, "This is so good. As a checked out wife, I feel so seen." So when you're seeing it, it can feel like you're looking at a completely different person, like a complete stranger in her. But what you're seeing is someone experimenting with parts of themselves that have been sitting in the background for a long time. One thing that you want to avoid doing, and it is very common, honestly, is that taking everything personally when you start to see this from her. It's very easy to assume that every positive change that she makes is a statement that's reflecting about you. Like if she goes and joins a gym, you may take that as a slight that she never respected you because she never went and did that before. Or if you see her smiling more, it's easy to think, yeah, it means she's way happier without you. You're throwing yourself right into a dangerous trap if you're interpreting what you see in that manner. If you start to view everything through those glasses, the true danger is that you stop observing reality and you're just collecting evidence for a story that you are making up yourself. You're really just making chapter after chapter of this story. And the problem is whatever story you tell yourself is what you start to believe. It usually starts by being self-pitying and very harmful. not only to your own mentals, but for your chances at reconciliation as well. The story is usually you convincing yourself that she never cared and that she moved on for good, and you are already forgotten in her eyes. The issue is that you are taking visible behavior from her and attaching a random invisible meaning to it. And like I said, this is the dangerous part because the meaning you're attaching is usually the cause of your own suffering. Her new behavior is one thing, but the suffering you're feeling is actually self-imposed. I mean, the truth is, you don't actually know what she's feeling when she's laying awake at night. You don't know the doubts that she still has. She could still be having conversation with herself, just like you might be doing, and maybe even thinking about the same things the way you are. You really don't know what emotions are underneath this version of herself that you're seeing publicly, or what she posts on social media if she's doing that. You only know what you are seeing, but you're being negatively impacted by the story you create from what you see. So let's clear up that misunderstanding that her changing means certainty against you. It doesn't. And you can stop creating stories that are harmful to you and honestly, probably not very accurate at all. Just because she suddenly seems different with the energy and different routines and different interests does not necessarily mean she's moved on and never coming back and that it's all over for good. Her changes don't signal full-on certainty that things are toast forever. She's finally gotten some relief after going through a lot of emotional toil while during that process was going on of emotional checkout in your relationship, which can take a very long time. So she is really just trying to figure herself out after all that emotional exhaustion. It doesn't mean that she has figured everything out, and that's a key distinction. Playing off what I said about the story most men create when they're seeing their wife go through this, they look at it and think that she has everything figured out now. She's got all the answers to her life now. Meanwhile, she may just be simply exploring. She may just be rediscovering herself and reconnecting with parts of herself that she felt were lost. It's part of her growth process, and none of those automatically mean that she has certainty about her future. But if you convince yourself that every change she makes means the outcome is decided and that it is because of you, you're going to continue to react from a place of hopelessness, and decisions from a place of hopelessness are terrible decisions. So let's turn the channel and talk about you for a second, because this is really not about her at all. It's about what her transformation forces you to confront. When she starts changing and growing and evolving, forget the stories you're creating about what you see. The real creation is a mirror, and it suddenly forces you to look at yourself. You got to ask yourself the tough questions that you may have been avoiding about your own growth. If you can recognize that you became complacent in the relationship, and if you've been living in a place of reactiveness, it is a very uncomfortable place to be, to ask yourself those questions. But as one who tried to brush them under a rug for a long time, and I figured out that, I basically thought that it was all external reasons why my relationships were so impacted, I can tell you these questions you're going to ask yourself are very necessary. I went from being obsessed with looking outward to pointing the finger back at myself, and that's where my life changed forever for the best. The absurdity is I wasted over a decade thinking things would kind of just happen for me, or they were happening to me that I couldn't control, and that if I just waited, they would get better because I was so focused on others and what else was happening. But the more attention you put on her transformation, the less you put on that of your own, and that's going to alone create 100% of the outcome you don't want. Because while she's moving forward, you are standing still. And I don't even want to say standing still. You're actually moving backwards because it's entropy. You are watching her get better, and you focusing on her just makes yourself get worse because you're doing nothing to improve yourself. And that brings me to a very important point. Just because you see her changing, you don't want to pressure yourself to start changing for the sole reason that you want to prove to her that you're changing too. You absolutely want to take control of what you are in control of, your positive growth, but you want to make sure you're not competing with her. If you're trying to compete with her or even just kind of compete to get her attention, it creates all kinds of unhelpful, strange behavior. Like if you're on social media, Facebook or whatever, don't be trying to post everything and talk about all these different improvements, making announcements to see if she's going to engage with those posts or like them or whatever the hell goes on. To be honest, I don't really spend that much time on social media. But don't be doing that to try and demonstrate transformation or get credit for doing it. Real growth does not work that way. Compare it to planting a tree. The roots have to first grow underground. You don't get applause for the roots. Nobody's going to come around and say, hey man, great roots you have growing under there that I can't even really see. Because it doesn't matter. The important thing is that you are doing that for you. And without those strong roots, the tree's never going to be stable. You're not going to get that shoot system if you don't plant the root system. And most guys are so focused on her that they just kind of want to skip that root system and jump straight up to the branches. They want her to see that the change that they're making and kind of get that validation from her. And that's also way before they even become that man they're trying to portray. And the result is pretty much always going to be the same. It feels forced, it's not real, and it's already putting the nail in the coffin on the exact narrative that she already has of you. So what do you have to do to make sure you are not like all of those unsuccessful men trying to reconcile? Well, this phase is actually giving you something incredibly valuable: perspective. For the first time in years, maybe ever, you can clearly see the patterns that brought you here. That is exactly what happened for me. Also, for the first time in years, maybe ever, you are no longer distracted by day-to-day routines. Like that autopilot is gone. The comfort zone and all the excuses, they're gone. Through all this pain, it really creates opportunity. There's a great quote from not so much a philosopher, but Adam Copeland, who you may know as Edge from WWE wrestling back in the day. He said that the pain you are feeling is merely the strike of every hammer blow on the anvil as you are being forged. And you may think that's cheesy, and if you do, that's fine. I'm not trying to be preachy, but I am telling you it is true, because now you can look at your life in an honest way. Not just your marriage, your life and your confidence and your standards and your habits that kind of got you there. You could look at all of that and rebuild from a stronger foundation. Or you won't. But I know exactly where that path leads if you don't. To blaming others for your circumstances, and most definitely not getting the reconnection you were hoping for with your wife. The opportunity for you right here is not only just kind of getting her back, that's actually too small of a goal. The real opportunity is becoming the one who doesn't need this crisis to wake him up again 5 years from now. And that is the type of growth that creates the best chance for reconnection with her, because genuine transformation is attractive if you do it properly. The one thing I want you to take from this video is that the woman you're seeing right now may look completely different, happier, lighter, seems more confident, but appearances rarely tell the whole story. The biggest mistake you can make is assuming you know exactly what everything means with her. Instead, make sure you're using this chapter of your life to transform your own life, not to prove something to her or win her back. I promise you the best thing for you is to become that different man who can be the leader, and that is the highest chance you will have to reconnect with her and become attractive to her again. If even 1% of you who are watching this listen to me, I mean, I'm realistic. I know that most people are going to watch this and say, either, hey, this was interesting, or yeah, this guy sucks, and they're going to go watch something else. But if even 1% take my advice and take action to start their transformation, then I've done my job to help the world. A better parent for kids, better family in the world, and that's going to help everybody else. So make sure you are one of those 1% who takes action and changes your life. And if you want help to reconcile with your wife by becoming the kind of man who's going to be stronger, calmer, more grounded, and more self-respecting than you were yesterday, go ahead and watch my free Relationship Rebuild Masterclass. The link for that free masterclass is in the description and pinned comment below. If this video helped you shift your perspective, then go and watch this next video called How to Save Your Marriage If You're the Only One Trying.